Hello and welcome to another edition of Mailbag. What is Mailbag? Well, Mailbag is a feature of the channel where you guys leave lots of comments on the channel and I attempt to answer those comments, or if I can't answer those comments, I throw it out to you guys who have more knowledge on some of this stuff than I do. So let's get into the first mailbag of this session. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. Next comment or video question. It's comment or video. It's not a video. It's a question. Comes from Augustine's Keys Music. I've already done that one. Oh, interesting. Number 11 doesn't seem to be number 11 because number 11 was actually. Number 3. Well, bugger me. I've done it twice. I don't need to do this one. Ha! Next comment or question comes from Todd Johnson. In response to the Great Keyboard Stand Challenge, the Gibraltar 3-tier keyboard stand videos that I did in August 2022. And Todd writes, I'm sure I would have done the same thing, but watching it, why risk damage to the synths? Why not mock up some cardboard? It was triggering me, but it was helpful at one part to see what I might need to add a tier to mine. So thank you. I obviously need the horizontal bar with the holders. I just need to figure out how to mount it. Right. Firstly, really importantly, no synths were harmed in the making of these Gibraltar keyboard stands videos. Otherwise, Wayne would have been really upset with me. And the thing about the cardboard is the cardboard only takes it so far. You really need to be working in 3 dimensions. So you need, not only do you need width and depth, you also need height, because you need to understand the clearances when you're putting the keyboards on and off, and when you're playing the keyboards, and can you see the screens, and can you get to the control buttons. You know, there's many things that need to sort of be playing around here to make sure that it works for you. Now Wayne, needed to be able to see the screens when playing, because obviously he needs to know what patch he's playing, and his issue was the reach for each keyboard acceptable, as in when he was playing the one on the lower tier, one in the middle tier, and the one on the far tier. You know, he's quite a big lad, Wayne. You know, he's 6'4", 6'5", I think it is. I mean, he's got quite long arms. But even for him, sometimes the reach on the top tier is too much. If you're playing out like this, it becomes very doesn't become easy for very long, if that makes any sense, because you're playing at arm's length. You need a little bit of slack there to give you the respite, if you like. Getting keyboards on and off the stands without damaging them is also important. Now, as it turns out, the tolerances in Wayne's design are quite tight. Without the keyboards, I don't think we would have even been able to get to where he's got to. And he has actually modified it slightly further since we did the videos, to be honest. But they were quite tight, and that you could only get that with the keyboards being in place. That's my consideration anyway. You start off with the sort of the maximum, and you sort of have to work your way down. Now, in my stands case, I actually have the top tier more vertical like that. But in Wayne's case, he wanted the top tier flatter because otherwise you couldn't see the keyboard player playing the keyboards because he was obscured by the top keyboard. Now, the other thing you've got to consider is when you make a cut, and these were conversations that Wayne and I had when we were actually doing this, but when you make a cut, you've cut the pipe. You can't glue them back together, right? These are chrome pipes, you can't glue them back together, you can't solder them back together. If you make a cock up, then effectively what you are doing is buying a new pipe and starting again. So each time we cut the pipes, Wayne had to make sure it was what he wanted. So quite often what you probably didn't see on video was the conversations Wayne and I was having with, right, okay, how much am I taking off this? Am I taking off, 10 mil, 20 mil, 30 mil, and how does that, where does that give us in terms of the tolerances, etc. So we were going through that each time. Now, again, I know also when I was doing my stands, I went through the same multiple iterations that we went through when we were doing these stands. So it's not as simple as just sort of saying, okay, well, I'm going to cut it here and I'm going to cut it there. It has to be ergonomically usable for the situation you're using it in. Wayne is he plays in Bon Jovi, which is a cover band of Bon Jovi, funny enough, and his requirement was the keyboard stand had to be on stage, it had to be usable, it had to be able to pack down, put into the van, right. There's a whole list of things that needed to happen, right? So they were his requirements. But my requirements are slightly different. I don't use mine on stage, therefore I have actually much longer poles on mine because I have a lot more equipment mounted on the second and third tier when the studio was up and running. So it's horses for courses, but you start off with the basic design, you work out how you need to change it.